Update: all my friends think my 22 male girlfriend, 21 female is creepy. Are they right? Original post. Hi Reddit, I, 22 male, started dating my girlfriend, let's call her Alice, 21 female, about 7 months ago. We met while working on a group project for one of our college classes. From the moment that I met her, I felt an instant connection. She was beautiful, smart, and we shared a bunch of common interests. Long story short, we flirted for a few weeks before I finally asked her out, and we've been happily going out since. Now here comes the problem. About a month ago, my friends and I were planning to hang out and I invited Alice. While me and Alice are from the same hometown, we met during college and a majority of our relationship has been during the school year. While we know each other's college friends, we'd never met each other's hometown friends. I know that Alice has really bad social anxiety, so I was hesitant to invite her at first. But when I did ask, she seemed nervous but really excited. The party seemed to go really well. Alice was smiling and laughing the whole time, and even got to go on a rant about topics that she really liked. When it was over, she even told me that while I was taking her home, how much she liked my friends. When I asked my friends what they thought of Alice, they all said that she seemed really nice. All except my best friend Ruben, 22 male. When I asked him, he told me that he hated her. I immediately questioned why, hoping it was them not mixing well, as I can acknowledge that Ruben and Alice are complete opposites when it comes to interests and personality. But Ruben told me he hated her because of how creepy she is, and I was better off dumping her. Now this threw me off as I had never once considered Alice creepy. She's actually the cutest girl I'd ever met, and I've never felt more comfortable around someone as I do around her. Before I could even ask what he meant, he went off on a rant about how uncomfortable she made him and started citing stories I told him about our dates during college. Stuff like how she'd stare at me without saying anything and just enjoy looking at me. How she ate the same meals whenever we went to dinner. How unjealous she was when a girl came up and flirted with me, or about her deep knowledge of poisons and love for murder mysteries and true crime. Both of which she could talk about for hours, but neither of which she actually talked about at the party. He said that while he wrote them off before since they didn't seem to bother me, which they don't, but that after meeting her in person and seeing how weird and flighty she was, he can tell that she's a secret psycho and will end up either breaking my heart or physically hurting me. I tried to explain to him how any weirdness was probably just because she was nervous about meeting them for the first time, but he insisted that we've had friends and significant others have had anxiety before, and it was that she was just plain weird. I blew him off at first because he sounded effing crazy. Alice isn't perfect, but she's far from creepy. But after 2 weeks of him telling me to dump her and me getting tired of telling him to drop it, I reached out to a few of her friends to prove him wrong. But to my surprise, they all agreed that Alice was creepy. Most of them said that the way that she spoke really threw them off, which is fair since Alice can be weirdly formal sometimes, but I didn't notice her doing that at the party at all. And typically, it's much more funny than unsettling. Most of my friends told me it wasn't enough to break up with her since they still genuinely found her sweet and fun to be around. But I did have one other friend say it was worth breaking up over, and he was just too embarrassed to tell me at first. I have no plans of breaking up with Alice because all the stuff they're calling creepy I find cute when she does. But are they right? Is it creepy she does that stuff? Should I talk to her about it? Should I just tell my friends to F off and ignore their concerns? I feel bad for even questioning about this, but with all my friends agreeing, it's starting to gnaw at me, and I just need some clarification if it's actually creepy or if they're just being dramatic. Now for the comments before reading the update. As a woman who has in my past been like this, I only ever wanted to find someone who loved me and my weirdness, almost like no one truly understood me or cared enough. I have now found that, and I'm 35. So if she is just a little weird with no underlying psycho, it matters what no one thinks, and do not let that influence your decisions. My biggest advice is being supportive and taking an interest in listening to her passions. She kind of sounds like she is nice and possibly loyal, but I don't know her. That's the kind of girl that you want to cherish and protect. Speaking from experience of myself. So he's uncomfortable with her staring at you, eating the same meals as you, and trying to be cool around you when girls flirt. That is odd. That's all very normal things. As far as the true crime stuff goes, that interest is actually very normal as well. That's why it's one of the top TV/movie categories in our country. The fact that he is continuously telling you to dump her and borderline obsessing over it, I would assume he has a crush on you. He sounds jealous. You need to tell him because his behavior is completely inappropriate and cruel towards her. She sounds wonderful. As a neurodivergent woman, I've been seen as the creepy girl by neurotypical people because of the way that I talk and my intense interests. No offense, but your friends sound boring and not accepting of people who aren't like them. If she makes you happy, that's all that matters. I have a lot of the same traits, and when I started dating my husband 6 years ago, he got a lot of criticism for dating me. Now we aren't friends with those people, and they're still alone while we've been happily married for 3 years and are expecting our first child. Date the weird girl. We can be pretty fun. Everything you described about Alice makes it seem like she is autistic or at least neurodivergent, and it's well known that neurotypicals find neurodivergent people weird even if they don't do anything wrong. I'm also into true crime documentaries because I love understanding the psychological aspect of it all. Doesn't make me a psycho. Please trust your own judgment and don't be influenced by your friends. They did find her nice. There weren't any real flags. Your friend is certainly quick to go all the way to hate when describing your girlfriend. Perhaps it is he that is creepy. She's actually the cutest girl I'd ever met, and I've never felt more comfortable around someone as I do around her. Let this be your guide. And as for the other friends who now say that she's creepy, I think Ruben has been spreading his poison, and these people, because they know Ruben but don't really know Alice, they are defaulting to his opinion. And the truth of the matter is that they haven't been around Alice enough to form a reliable picture of who she really is. You're 22 now, not 16. So it's time you left the crowdthink behind you. Enough said. Now for the update. Wow, thank you all so much for your helpful comments and validation. I'm glad you all agreed that the stuff Alice is doing wasn't really me. Anyway, to get into the meat of this update. Since I posted originally, I spoke with each of my friends individually and talked to them about what they said. Pretty much all of them apologized, and even some offered to apologize to Alice herself, which at the time I said no to since I didn't really want them interacting with her. But we'll get back into that later. The only person who didn't apologize, I'm sure you guessed, was Ruben. I want to address some comments suggesting that Ruben could either be attracted to me or maybe even Alice. I don't think either of those are true, as Alice is the first girlfriend Ruben has ever acted like this with, even though I've dated plenty of girls, and Alice isn't his usual type. He may still be attracted to her. I mean, she is effing gorgeous, but I've known the guy since 3rd grade, and so I know he's pretty picky about the girls he's with. So I don't think it's that. I think he's just a major dick. I've known Ruben literally my whole life, since our moms were college friends and moved close to each other when we were both young. With so much history, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt by just asking him to drop it since I really didn't care if he found her creepy. I really liked her, and he'd just have to deal with it if he wanted to continue being friends. He didn't apologize or even say he was wrong, but he did agree to stop commenting on it, which isn't perfect but works for now as I consider if I really want to continue to be friends with him. Yesterday, I met up with Alice for a casual date. It wasn't anything fancy, just a home picnic. I have really bad allergies, so we couldn't do it outside. We had some candles and our favorite foods, and we watched movies and dissected our favorite tropes. About halfway through our 3rd movie, Alice brought up Ruben since she heard about an upcoming car show auction her dad told her about, and she remembered me saying that he loved vintage cars and suggested the 3 of us and a friend of hers who was also into cars go together, so she could get to know him better. It felt crazy that she suggested this days after mine and Ruben's fight, and it made me feel sick with how sweet she was being to such a jerk. I gave some weak excuses about how she hates car shows and doesn't have to do that, or how Ruben wouldn't be comfortable doing that. My girlfriend, being the angel she was, said that she could tough through it, or even just let me and Ruben go together if he wasn't comfortable with her yet, and she'd even pay for the tickets because it was a private showing. This was the point I broke, and I told her everything that happened. She took it really well, just calmly listening while I rambled through my explanation, and even ended up apologizing to me about weirding out her friends. I tried to explain it wasn't her fault, and she didn't need to apologize. As a lot of you suspected, she ended up telling me how she believed she was autistic, but since she hadn't gotten an official diagnosis, so she wasn't comfortable telling people. After a lot of guilty back and forth between the two of us, she told me she didn't want me cutting off my friends, since they did apologize and didn't say anything cruel, just pointed out her neurodivergent tendencies, which aren't an insult to her, but I put my foot down that I for sure won't be bringing her around Ruben anymore, and to plan to distance myself from him and my other friends for the time being, which she agreed was fair. She also wants to meet up with my friends who want to apologize to her since they seem genuine in their regret. Overall, things turned out pretty well, and thank you all so much for your input. Editor's note, honestly, Alice sounds like a catch, and I want to be her friend. Story 2. I'm worried that my husband's comments to my sister 25 may have driven her away, plus update. Original post. I've known my husband for 6 years, been married for 1. I moved across the country for college when I was 18, where I met my 24 husband, 25. I've only been back a couple of times over the years, mostly for holidays, but my husband had never gone back with me until we ended up moving back to be closer to my family. Since we've been back, I've been trying to get closer to my family, especially my sister. She was in some bad relationships and cut off contact with me and my parents for a few years, but she's back now, and I hope that we'd be able to build a relationship. I had noticed that she had not been coming over to my place as much, not spending as much time with the family, and then a few weekends ago she asked me if we could talk. She said that she felt that she wanted to let me know that my husband had been making comments and saying things to her that she thought were inappropriate. My sister is gorgeous, beyond beautiful, and she's always attracted attention, even from married men. My husband had been making comments about her body and her looks, compliments, but ones that made her feel uncomfortable. During Christmas, he had told her how attractive she was and some stuff about how lucky her boyfriend was. Since then, she's been trying to not be around him as much by not coming around as much, and was afraid of how I was going to react if I found out. I was obviously upset, but I told her that I understood and that it wasn't her fault, and that it wouldn't happen again. My husband and I ended up in a fight when I confronted him about what she had told me, but eventually he admitted that he had said most of that stuff to her, even though he tried to pass it off like he didn't mean anything by it. I made it clear that he wasn't to say anything like that what he had said to her again, and that he had apologized for his inappropriateness. He agreed with everything that I asked of him. I let her know about my conversation with my husband and that he had apologized whenever she felt like hearing it, but she's still not coming around to family events. I'm so scared that his comments have driven a wedge between my sister and the rest of us. She and I hadn't talked for a long time until I moved back, and I've been scared that something is going to make her want to leave again. Now for the updates. Update 1. I was honestly so surprised by the amount of responses that my original post garnered. I tried to read everyone's thoughts, and I just want to say that I'm really grateful to everyone who offered some perspective and took the time to share their thoughts, even if they were upset with the fact that I was handling everything in the wrong way. I wanted to update anyone who is interested in the state of everything right now. I feel I'm still going to be making people upset and angry, but I'm still trying to work out all that has happened in the last few weeks, and I'm hoping that I can eventually wrap my head around the situation and make better choices. One of the things that many people said is that my husband may have said or done more than my sister had told me, and that she's feeling unsafe and that I've betrayed her. This thought is what has gotten to me the most, and it's been weighing on my shoulders. I'm struggling very hard with what to do next. The main update that I have is that my sister and I have been talking. She hadn't been responding to most of my messages and calls since the last time that we had spoken in person, which is when I told her what I talked about with my husband. The last message I sent her was one that asked if she wanted to get lunch, which was the day that I posted. She ended up answering that one a couple of days after the post and agreed to have lunch with me. When we met up, she acted very normal. She seemed very much like her usual self, very bubbly and outgoing. I honestly can't tell if she's actually more upset and bothered than she's appearing. Her birthday is coming up at the end of this month, and she wants to have a girls' trip weekend away, and she wants my help planning everything. She seems excited about that, and as far as I can tell, she's behaving as if everything is fine. I didn't know if I should bring up the situation with my husband, but I ended up asking her about it again. She reiterated what she had told me before. He complimented her on her looks and her outfits in a suggestive way, and had said the thing about her boyfriend being a lucky man. She said again that she was mostly concerned with how I was going to feel about it. I didn't ask her if she felt unsafe around him. I feel now like I should have, but at the time, I was still afraid that she didn't trust me and might feel like I was putting her on the spot. During lunch, I asked her what she would think if I left him. She repeated that her main worry before coming to me was causing issues between my husband and I, but told me that she didn't like my husband and didn't think he was a good guy in general and specifically for me. I'm still worried about her, that she feels threatened and afraid of my husband, but right now she's acting okay with me. I'm hoping that if things continue to seem normal, we can continue to talk and she might open up more. Since that lunch, we've seen each other several times. I made dinner for my mom last Sunday and she came over to eat with us. And then we did some planning for her birthday. Again, she's still acting as if everything is normal, but I'm still incredibly worried about her. The other thing that happened is that I started sleeping over at my mom's house. My mom has been having health and mobility issues that made it difficult for her to do a lot. I had been trying to do as much as I could for her, but she's been needing someone around more full time. I've been so overwhelmed these past few months driving over to her house every day to drop off food and do things around the house that she needed. I had been considering finding someone to stay with her until she gets back on her feet. After everything that happened, and then what I read in the last post, I talked to her about it. She agreed to let me stay with her in exchange for helping her out more. My mom's extra bedrooms are used as storage, so I had to spend last weekend uncluttering a place to sleep. But one of my sister's friends came over to help me clear out the room, and I've been staying here ever since. My husband figured out what I was doing and asked if it was because of what happened with my sister. I told him that I wasn't lying about wanting to help my mom more, but that it was part of it. He was pretty upset, but eventually he let it go. Right now, my primary focus has to be helping my mom and bringing my grades up in grad school, and I've been too anxious and upset over the last few weeks to concentrate, and I can't afford to let my GPA slide. I'm also trying to be available for my sister whenever she wants to talk, even though things appear to be stable with her right now. I'm still really anxious over what she might be thinking and feeling. It's a lot, and I'm still struggling with figuring out on how to balance everything right now. My sister has been really helpful, and so has her friend. My sister brought dinner for me and my mom this week, and her friend left some frozen meals for me to heat up when I'm too tired or busy to cook. He also was going to help me get my mom to her doctor's appointments this week. I'm scared to admit that I still don't know what to do about my husband. I got so many messages and DMs from people who were upset that I hadn't left him yet, but I'm also just feeling too overwhelmed to really come to terms with everything. I'm just trying to get through next month. I've got midterms and my sister's birthday, and then I feel like I can take a breath and take some time to figure out what to do about my relationship. It's very hard to think clearly right now, and I hope that the space between my husband and I is going to help and not hinder that. My husband is extremely upset. He's been calling and texting night and day with all the same questions that I couldn't answer in my last post. And I feel bad that I don't have any answers for anyone yet. But unfortunately, I'm still trying to figure it out. Again, I know there are so many people who are going to hate me for this, and I'm sorry, but I'm still just trying to wrap my mind around everything. Update 2. I wasn't planning on making another update post, but I got a couple of comments and messages today, so I want to put out my final update. My husband and I are going to be splitting up. Like I said in my other update, I went ahead and moved in with my mom to take care of her for a few months, hoping that time apart would give me some clarity about everything. And like I said in the previous post, my husband really didn't like that at all. We've probably fought more over the last month than we have in our entire marriage. Then during one of our arguments, he ended up saying some awful nasty things about my sister. And at that point, I didn't want to go any further with him or the relationship. I'm still at a loss at what to do next. One of my sister's friends got me in touch with a lawyer, and it's been overwhelming. I'm still got my mother in grad school and my job, so with divorce on the docket, I'm just trying to keep my head above water right now. Also, I just wanted to say thank you to the people who gave me encouragement and wanted to give me some genuine guidance. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.